Okay. So, hey, Miss Nicole, how are you?
I am well, thank you. I hope you're doing well too.
I am, and I'm very grateful to have you on the radio show today. This is certainly a pleasure for me
Me too. Yes, thank you.
and to be able to see you. So, we are recording remotely, and I know you're from this area, so there'll be, things that we can talk about certainly are apropos. They apply to Western North Carolina for sure.
Yes.
Um, so, what I'd like to do is just kind of start with today. I have a special guest, Nicole File. She is a journalist in Atlanta. She is from Western North Carolina. And we've, worked together on a couple of projects. We can talk about those or we can skip them, but I want you to be able to talk about whatever you want to share with our local uh, radio folks. I mean, we have about 5,000, just, I don't know if you know this, but we have about 5,000 local listeners that listen to the show every week, and we have about 10,000 national. So we do have a
Wonderful.
following, which is nice.
That-
So if you want to hear it, it'll be on, it's on the radio at 107.7 FM. If you want to hear it after we record, you can get a
for
copy.
sure.
Um, anyhow, so Nicole, tell me a little bit about you. What do you want to share with the audience? I mean, you've got such a
Well,
colorful, wonderful life. So please share it.
well, I would love to give you a shout out for the whole reason that we know each other, which is a little bittersweet sweet for me. But you actually helped me stop being a Western North Carolinian just a few months ago. And
That
I,
is
I
true. That
sold
is true.
my property that I had in Hendersonville, which I loved very dearly. But my mother's health was declining and we just didn't need it anymore. But you were wonderful and your knowledge of the area was wonderful. And then, right in the
Thank
middle of all
you.
that, Helene hit. And I saw how wonderful you are as a member of your community. And then I don't know if you want to talk about what happened next, but I decided we should make this a permanent relationship. So it's been really inspiring to get to know you and to get to know some of the
Same.
people that you've introduced me to. And I really appreciate everything you're doing for the whole area and your deep knowledge and understanding of all the people who live there, because it is so hard to see my hometown go through this. I grew up in Asheville, and I went to college in Brevard, and then of course I've had property for over a decade in Hendersonville. It's so hard to be so far away, and you've made it easier for me to help, and I really appreciate that.
Well, and you really stepped up. I mean, I didn't know about softer streets until, we kind of all of a sudden, I don't even remember how it happened, just had this conversation about what was happening here and, your knowledge as a journalist and caring not only because of what you do professionally, but also personally, in the area.
Yeah.
And we just sort of, uh,
Well, yes,
coordinated our
and to your
efforts.
point, yes, and Softer Streets, which you're now a board member of, thank goodness. Softer Streets started out actually with one of my journalism colleagues who got so tired of seeing people who were unsheltered, and initially it started with a homeless outreach initiative to just help people not sleep physically on the ground and to provide sleeping equipment for them. But we have since expanded it into disaster relief, war relief, and things like that. And think I think our first disaster relief that we ever did was the Crusoe floods a few years ago.
The
And
Crusoe
so
flood.
that
So where was that?
Crusoe, North Carolina, over near Cold Mountain. Remember,
Oh,
the flood just tore through that little valley and it just wiped people out. And so,
do
because
you
I
remember
had
how many were affected there?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I should know the answer to. I don't know, but it was tens of thousands.
Okay.
And so that we were able to help with that, people who just didn't have mattresses to sleep on anymore and things like that. And that gave us some critical insight into how to help flood victims now.
Mhm.
And then again, you've expanded that drastically for us by being our sort of on the ground rep there. So
Well,
yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Well, thank you. So with Crusoe, at that time, were you connected with climate or how did you, because So climate,
Yes.
okay.
So Climate has been Softer Streets' exclusive supplier since the beginning,
Thank
since
you.
we were founded in 2017, which was not how we meant for it to be.
Okay.
But they stepped up to such a degree. Climate's one of the premier camping outfitters in the country.
And I
And
wasn't familiar with climate till I became familiar with you and Softer
we had
Streets.
no
And
idea that a major corporation was going to step up and just say, let us help you on a consistent basis.
mhm.
And they have, so they've been wonderful throughout. And we have just never needed to deal with anyone else, because when we have a need, we can use our donor funds to purchase things through them. And then they also give us some things that they have set aside. And for this Helene relief, they sent, I believe the retail
Like
value was more than
somewhere around
three,
16,000 items, right? If I remember
I think it
correctly.
was 16,000 items at a value of more than $3 million,
Oh,
which is more than
wow.
so many much bigger corporations have done. But they just, they obviously they love campers, they love climbers and hikers. That's their customer base. So when they saw that this incredible, natural area was so terribly affected, they just wanted to help. So yeah, it's been terrific yet again working with them.
Yeah, and what was fabulous is obviously what they sent. I mean, the blankets, were sort of all self-enclosing and rated
Right.
below whatever temperature, the sleeping bags, and then the mats themselves, which I believe to this day we still have. Actually, the only thing we have left are mats. Everything else, we've
Yes.
been able to donate and give to those people in need, but because we had so many mats, there's still some left.
Right.
And just the ability for them to be so useful, like self-inflating. Like I can barely blow a balloon, but the fact that somebody could thank you for laughing.
That was
These,
the first thing I noticed. It's funny you mentioned that, because I have asthma and I'll practically faint blowing up a balloon. And when we first started out with them, I said, let me try to blow up these mattresses. I am a skeptic. And it went without a hitch. I did not need any supplemental oxygen at all. So
yeah, so
I
that
can
was
vouch for
extremely
that
helpful.
too.
And we still get thank yous to this day. And
Oh, it's wonderful.
although here in Western North Carolina we're at sort of that phase 3 stage, I know that the items that Softer Streets provided and climate, et cetera, have been fabulous. And just like people send me pictures and thank yous all the time. And I know that you receive the same, and the people that we connected with, as far as like Tennessee
It's
and
incredible.
yeah, yeah.
I was actually doing a delivery for us up in Banner Elk, and I slammed into some broken pavement and broke my rim on my tire. And I sent out this little APB to help, for help to someone I had met not even an hour earlier, who then sent three special forces men in like a Humvee to rescue me. And all three of them were, I think one was Missouri, one was Kentucky, and the other one, I can't remember where he was from, but there were just people who had dropped everything to come to Western North Carolina to help. And I can't even say how much that meant to me, because for me who grew up there, of course I love it. Of course I feel it when something happens, but I was shocked at how many people nationwide and even internationally just put aside everything in their entire lives and said, "We go help."
Yeah,
And that's one of the really good things that I think came out, and I hope lasts. That and just the unity of people from all backgrounds, all belief systems, all the whole political spectrum working side by side. And I think
agreed.
that is one thing that we all need more of, and hopefully that's a little bright spot that can come out of it.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that we talked about, getting together a year from now and sort of um, you know, talking about people's lives and how they've changed and sort of all the
Mm.
gifts that we've all received just by being able to give back to the community. So that'll be nice. And obviously you'll be a part of that. So sort of touching base with who you are and what you do, and your genuine spark, which definitely shines through for those of us that can see you and will see you that they know that. But so you're from the area originally, right? You went to
Right.
school in Chapel Hill, is that right?
Well, I was born in Chapel
Or
Hill.
born in Chapel Hill?
And I grew up in Asheville mostly,
Okay.
a little bit in Shelby, which at the time was its own place, and
Uh-huh.
now it's like a suburb of Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I came back. I moved to Raleigh and then came back to Brevard for college for a couple of years, and then went to Virginia to finish out my college career because at the time Brevard College was just a 2-year school.
But
And
mom was always here, right?
my mom moved with us to Raleigh, and then she was able to retire here.
Okay.
So she wound up retiring in Hendersonville, and so I've had some footprint here for most of my life, and boy, it's just if I hadn't grown up in Asheville, I would be jealous of myself. I it was such a great place to grow up as a kid. I can't even say. Just all you do is, and especially being Gen X, where our parents just threw us out first thing in the morning, and we're like,
Yep.
don't come home till dark.
Yep.
And or after school, you checked in with neighbors, and everything was fine.
We
And
had the cowbell, but yeah.
I joke that my entire childhood year was a preposition. It was just over, around, through, under, across, just gallivanting through hill and dale and up trees and down cliffs, and it just made for just a really fun childhood.
And didn't you have some connection with like Biltmore Village and a restaurant or something
Yes,
recently?
yeah. My
Or
parents
mom?
ran a restaurant, the
Yeah.
Biltmore Village Inn, for
Biltmore Village Inn.
years, and
Okay.
I think they were only open for 6 years. It was, it's funny. I wish my mother had coined the term farm to table cuisine and cashed in on it because it really became this
Exactly
thing.
what
She
it
was
was.
ahead of
Yeah.
her time, but that's what it was. And like early American food. So influences from Native American cultures, and as well as old British recipes. And I remember she had Thomas Jefferson's cookbook that he wrote, and tweaked some of his recipes. So we always ate well, that's for sure, and got to have a real appreciation for mountain food and the people who produce it. Which, I mean, just I think one of the country's greatest farmers markets is right over there, and the WNC market. I'll
Hmm.
put it up against just about anything in the country. So
It's wonderful.
yeah.
So, did you have a favorite dish that either you made or you made with your mom or your parents or?
Ooh, well, we because it was a professional restaurant, the kids weren't allowed to touch anything. But I will say this to my eternal shame. I remember once complaining that we were having beef Wellington and green beans almondine again. And I think of that often as I'm cooking whatever my chicken thigh dinner of the night is. I
That's
think
great.
I used to once be sick of beef Wellington. Those were the days.
Aw. Oh, that's really special. Very special. So, anything you'd like to share with the audience before, we end for today?
Well, I just, my best wishes, of course, to the area. And my mother actually sadly passed just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So I'm still a little bit going through that, going through moving back into my house from a months long renovation. So I am a
Lots of
little stretched thin
transitions.
at the moment, but boy, I'm about to get back in it with I hope with some relief and restoration efforts there, and just I know the businesses are helping each other and people are helping each other, and it's been wonderful to watch. And I promise, as a journalist, we're not going to forget. And a lot of us, there are actually a large number of Western North Carolina natives who work as journalists in Atlanta, and we are constantly hammering for extra coverage, and we're getting it
Oh,
pretty
that's
steadily.
wonderful.
So yeah, people aren't going to forget about y'all, and neither are we as people. So
Well, thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
thank
And I
you
can't
so
wait to
much.
see you live in person again.
Me too. Soon, soon, soon.
So, Nicole, we're talking about, we're just talking about Western North Carolina and being a journalist. And I know you mentioned like, your sort of your folks there, people you work with in Atlanta and saying how when you want to keep Western North Carolina in the forefront of your minds and you don't want us to be forgotten. What was it like for you, being from Western North Carolina and some of your colleagues first hearing about what was happening? Like, what was your, as a journalist, like, who
Oh,
cares
that's a
about
great
people?
question. Well, I'll tell you, it was a little, I guess, almost threefold. I mean, as I actually still owned my property at that point, so obviously from a personal level, it's will my property be safe? And then just watching as the radars took hold and hearing things, even the day before Helene officially hit, there was so much rain just from that other, I guess it was a cold front that came through, and seeing how much rain even the day before had dumped on the area, I was nervous. And I remember that an expert said that we could be looking at not only mudslides or landslides, but mountainside failures. And I thought,
Mountain site failures, is
I
that what you
grew
said?
up, mountainside failures were the
Okay.
words. And I thought, I have lived in the mountains on and off my whole life. I've never heard that term.
I've never
And I
either. So
thought,
mountainside failures. Okay.
and that is what happened, where you had literally, it was almost like some mountains just collapsed on themselves. And I remember, I will never forget the feeling that went through my chest when I heard those words. And I forgot what that man did. He was some sort of a land engineer or something. And I thought, oh boy, he knows what he's talking about, and this is bad. And just watching it develop from a little bit of a distance, even though we were kind of in the middle of the storm in Atlanta as well, or at least the outer bands of it. um, it was scary. I will say it's one of the few times as a journalist that I have felt personally afraid, and and just having to block that out while doing my job. And from a professional standpoint, I've been a journalist for 30 years, and there's almost nothing that we haven't seen or done at some point.
I bet.
At least I've never been in a war or anything like that. Nothing too exciting, but certainly from a working at my desk standpoint, there's not a lot I haven't seen. But it was a little unusual for that, of just a level of fear for myself, fear for my belongings, both here and there, but fear for people that I care about, because I know so many people who live in the area, and just wondering, will they be okay?
Right.
And what are they going to go through? So I think probably a little bit similar to what a lot of people were feeling, and then just the unfolding sense of almost disbelief of just how bad it was and just how huge it was. So it's
And you were
not
on that.
not
You were
feeling.
one of the, I don't want to use the word lucky folks, but you're one of the folks that could see from the outside, looking in
Yeah.
versus, you weren't physically here, but you
Right.
knew
Well,
what
I
was
had
going on, and
power,
we
I
didn't
had
know what was
internet, I
going on.
had mobile, I had all the things that people there didn't have. And even my neighborhood lost power and
Mhm.
water for something like 8 or 9 days. So I had the advantage of at least being able to find things out. I cannot imagine what people went through, feeling so isolated and not knowing who all was affected, where their own loved ones were, how to get help for themselves and their families. I mean, just the trauma of it, I think, must be just awful. And you, with your trauma experience, I'm sure can understand that as well. So it's just
We're
the
still
whole
dealing with
scale
it.
of it is heartbreaking from top to bottom.
Mhm.
And I don't know what to say about it other than we just all need to be there for each other for a long time.
Exactly. And we have been, I know we talked about that, which is fabulous, one street at a time, just literally being able to help each other. And what's interesting? Um, someone asked me today at the radio show, like, hey, how is the market since the hurricanes? And I get that
Mm.
question all the time. Used to be, how's the real estate market? But here in Western Currents, like, how's the real estate market since the hurricane? Because we've never seen anything like this in our lifetime. And,
Sure.
you're again someone who was able, you went under contract prior to the hurricane and your property sold. You were one of the lucky ones in this regard. You were able to sell your property, didn't really have much
Right.
damage, but then like literally you could look out your side window and see properties that were damaged.
Yeah.
Again, one street at a time, and just what we saw and what we dealt with. And then selling your neighbor's property after the hurricane, sort of the before and after. So, like I tell people, as things have been slow here since August, but even slower since the hurricane, and things are
Right.
definitely more of a buyer's market. I mean, things are selling for less than they would. I think we're at about 50% lower per price per home than a year ago.
My
So
goodness.
yeah, it's pretty large, and I don't know if and when that'll change, but um, we're definitely a buyer's market. You sold at a good time, and
Thank
things will
you.
continue to sell here. You're welcome. Things will continue to sell here, which is great. It's still a lovely place to live, a lovely place to work. I mean, none of that's changed, and we have a lot of support from people like yourself, and that will definitely remain. But so thank you again for listening to me, talking with me, taking time from your busy
It's
life
always a
to
pleasure. Thank you so much.
same,
And thanks
same.
again for everything that you're doing for the area. And I can't wait to see your face in person soon.
Yes, maybe I'll come visit you in Atlanta.
Do it. I have a guest room now and
Oh
plumbing.
yes, that's right. And a working shower, hot water, all those wonderful
Yes.
things. All
It's
right.
amazing.
Thank you again. All right. Bye, dear. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Hey now, Judy Moulton, Grateful Mindset Properties Realty Radio host, broker in charge of Grateful Mindset Properties, buyer coach, and certified sellers expert in Western North Carolina and beyond. Coming to you live from 107.7 FM, AM 1450, and online at gratefulmindsetproperties.com. Today's show is sponsored by Grateful Mindset Properties, where we strive not to be of success, but rather to be of value. Grateful Mindset Properties was founded in 2020 and serves Western North Carolina and beyond with a grateful mindset. We are local real estate experts. We are a hybrid mobile office here in Hendersonville, North Carolina, serving all of Western North Carolina. Brevard, Canton, Asheville, Waynesville, Haywood County, Polk County, Henderson County, Buncombe County, Rutherford, and so on. So I'm grateful to have my followers that listen avidly every week, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 9:30 on 107.7 FM, AM 1450, and go back and read our newsletter and see our audio video recordings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor. So thank you so much. And today we have a special guest. We have Nicole File. She is a senior editor at CNN, and she is in Atlanta, but she is from Western North Carolina. She is an Asheville native, and a client and a friend, a colleague in the nonprofit world as well. We work together on the board of Softer Streets. We came together here in Western North Carolina during Hurricane Helene and have remained in close contact and connected, helping people whenever and wherever we can. And speaking of nonprofits, I was recently elected to, I've been on the board for Homes for Youth, a local nonprofit here in Hendersonville, also has a house in Polk County in Saluda, but in Hendersonville we have two houses. We buy houses and we home and house foster families, full-time foster parents and foster children, which is a program through a nonprofit. So Homes for Youth is connected with a program called CrossNor, where it's a bridging families program that provides resources to families and bridging the gap with families in need. And I was recently elected to be their president on the board. I've been with them for a couple of years now, and I'm very grateful for that. We've got our spaghetti dinner that's happening, and hopefully some of you will be there. And another program that I support called Give Directly, I found out about them. It is an international program that gives cash directly to individuals and families. It's a global effort to end poverty. And they sent me some stats recently. $3 bought a chicken for a gentleman named Sid, and that he plans to sell its offspring for income. $15 paid school fees for 3 of Zawadi's children. And a happy family bought a mattress for $34, again, by giving directly cash to these families and individuals. George bought equipment for his phone repair shop. He received $110. $250 bought a cow. $400 built a new home for somebody. So things like that are really important. I know this time of year, we're in December and moving into 2025 soon, and these things help the unhomed and so on, like Softer Streets, which I came together with Nicole File, who's our guest today, provides, getting people off the ground and more, providing homes as well. So there's many things that are happening here in Western North Carolina, and I'm just really grateful. One of the other programs I'd like to mention, the Hendersonville Art League. We are doing a somatic art drawing class as well as art therapy. So hopefully you'll join us here in January and March. So some things that are happening in real estate that are really important. The interest rates have remained in the mid sixes. We've been at about 6.68 to 6.7 to 6.8 for the 30-year, and the 15-year at 6.0 to 6.07 has been the last couple of weeks. Freddie Mac's mission is to make homes possible for families across the nation. They promote liquidity, stability, and affordability and equity in the housing market through the secondary mortgage market. They've been around since the 1970s and helped tens of millions of families buy, rent, or keep their homes, and they've been helping to try to keep people aware of interest rates. So that's where I get a lot of my information. Some other things that are important right now is we're talking about buyers and sellers, and we're talking about national news. So there was the president of Chapman University in California. They talked about the housing market. He's one of the leaders in the housing industry and sort of giving us information and news. But California has always been a leader for housing, or setting an example, because it's such a large state, such a large population. So one of the things they talked about and discussed in the state of housing and affordability is that we right now, looking at California and across the nation, we are in the lowest we've ever been in terms of available housing, affordability, and so on. Inflation, which is expected to climb to about 3% higher in 2025, is definitely something that has been talked about. On December 12th, the President Emeritus, Jim Duddy, and colleagues at Chapman talked about looking at the economic outlook for 2025, and the forecast predicts that we will see a slight decline in the median price point, but that nationally, while inflation is expected to rise at about 3%, the Federal Reserve will only reduce the federal funds rate by about 75 more basis points. So affordability remains a key issue whether you're in California or here in Western North Carolina. The national real gross domestic product growth is expected to slow to about 1.8% in 2025, down from 2.7% at this time last year. We're about 40 to 45, as high as 50%, kind of fluctuating from last year to this year at this time in terms of not only affordability but just overall home sales. We've seen some other interesting facts or fun facts for sellers. Recent reports show that older Americans are more likely to buy a disaster-prone home than younger ones. About 37% of the home purchases made by people 65 and older in counties across the United States where they might have high risk of extreme heat, floods, etc., compared to about 32% of purchases made by people under 35. The same trend holds true for flood and fire risk. So something to just kind of keep note of. These are things that we're seeing. 35% of Americans think housing market will crash in 2025. 51% see higher risk under Trump in the new lending tree study. And I'll talk about this more when we come back, but thank you so much for listening to Grateful Mindset Properties Realty Radio Show each week. We really appreciate it. Please reach out for any reason or no reason, 828-290-0940 or gratefulmindsetproperties.com. Thank you.